the keeper of the light. Riggs, a 15-year-old boy with big dreams, spends his days working in his family's bait shop on the island. He's grown up hearing stories from his grandfather, the last lighthouse keeper, about how the lighthouse guided countless ships safely through the treacherous waters. The lighthouse has since become automated, and Riggs often visits the now empty tower, dreaming of the day he could bring it back to life. His parents are practical, encouraging him to focus on the family business. But Riggs secretly longs to do more, to protect, guide, and serve. His grandfather's words echo in his mind. Never let your circumstances limit your imagination, Riggs. Dream big, and life will find a way to meet you there. Later that day, the first drops of rain began, as a whisper against the tin roofs of the island's homes. Riggs looked up from the bait shop's counter as the sky turned from gray to an ominous, bruised purple. The air was thick with the metallic tang of ozone, and the wind carried a low, mournful howl that made the islanders exchange uneasy glances. By evening, the storm was a roaring beast. Thunder cracked like a whip, and lightning illuminated the angry waves crashing against the cliffs. The automated systems of the lighthouse had gone dark, leaving the island shrouded in a suffocating blackness. Supplies won't reach us without the light, Riggs overheard the mayor say, his voice barely audible over the wind's scream. Those waters will tear the ships apart. Riggs' heart pounded in his chest, but he felt a fire ignite within him. This is my chance. This is my moment. He stepped forward, his voice steady despite the chaos. I can do it, he said, meeting the mayor's startled gaze. I know the lighthouse. My grandfather taught me everything about it. Let me light the way. The adults hesitated, their doubt hanging in the air like the storm clouds above. But Riggs didn't waver. He thought of his grandfather's words, spoken so many times during their walks along the shore. Circumstances are just the beginning of a story, Riggs. You decide how it ends. The mayor nodded. Go, Riggs. We're counting on you. The lighthouse stood like a lone sentinel against the storm, its silhouette barely visible through the driving rain. Riggs sprinted toward it, his feet slipping on the muddy path. The wind tugged at his clothes, as if trying to pull him back, but he pushed on, clutching his grandfather's worn notebook against his chest. Inside, the air was damp and cold. The spiral staircase loomed before him, its iron steps slick with rainwater seeping through the cracks. As he climbed, the storm seemed to grow angrier, shaking the lighthouse with each gust of wind. You can do this, Riggs told himself, gripping the railing. You were meant for this. His mind raced with memories of his grandfather, the nights spent poring over the lighthouse's mechanisms, the stories of storms weathered, and the unwavering belief that Riggs was destined for greatness. Reaching the top, Riggs was met with a scene of disarray. The lantern's housing was coated in dust, and the gears of the manual crank were stiff with rust. The storm outside was a symphony of chaos. Rain hammering against the windows, waves crashing like cannon fire, and the relentless howl of the wind. Riggs set to work, his hands trembling but determined. He cleaned the lantern's lens, checked the oil reserves, and began cranking the gears. Sweat mingled with the rain on his face as he fought against the rusted mechanism. This isn't just about me, he thought, gritting his teeth. This is about the island. It's about every ship out there counting on this light to guide them. At last, the lantern sprang to life, casting a brilliant beam of light that cut through the storm like a sword. Riggs let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding, his chest swelling with pride and relief. All night, Riggs stayed at his post, adjusting the beacon to guide the supply ships through the treacherous waters. The storm raged on, but he felt an unshakable calm within him, as if his grandfather's spirit was there, steadying his hand. Through the fogged window, he saw the first ship emerge from the darkness, its crew waving in gratitude as they reached the safety of the harbor. One by one, the vessels arrived, bringing the supplies the island so desperately needed. As dawn broke, the storm finally relented, and the first rays of sunlight painted the island in hues of gold and pink. Exhausted but elated, Riggs descended the lighthouse, greeted by a crowd of cheering islanders. Later that day, as Riggs stood on the lighthouse balcony, gazing out at the calm sea, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. His grandfather's words echoed in his mind. "Dream big, Riggs. Life will find a way to meet you there." He realized that the storm hadn't just tested his courage. It had proven that his dreams were never out of reach. Circumstances didn't matter. What mattered was his belief, his imagination, and his willingness to act. As the lighthouse beacon turned lazily in the sunlight, Riggs smiled. He was no longer just a dreamer. He was a keeper of the light, a protector of his island, and the master of his own destiny. A few weeks later, Riggs receives 2 life-changing letters. The first is a fully paid scholarship to a prestigious college, sponsored by a maritime organization impressed by his actions. The second is an offer to become the official caretaker of the island's lighthouse, responsible for maintaining both the automated systems and the legacy of manual operation. Riggs stood on the lighthouse balcony once again, looking out at the sea, his heart full of gratitude and pride. His grandfather's voice echoes in his mind again. Never let your circumstances limit your imagination. As the lighthouse beam sweeps across the horizon, Riggs knows he has become exactly who he was always meant to be, a keeper of the light for both the island and his own dreams.